What's up, nerds? Welcome back. Let's talk about independent creators again because I recently just got another one of the Indiegogo campaigns that I had backed, that being Starlight Cats from Shane Davis. So I gotta say, this is one particular project that I've been excited to get the book itself, don't get me wrong. The only thing that kind of had me hesitant at first to even back it was the fact that it was about cats. And the only reason I grew up with a lot of cats, my mom has always loved cats ever since I was growing up. So we've always had cats. At one point, we had like 13 to 15 cats literally living at our house. I'm not joking about that. So this is where I'm saying, like, I've always liked cats, but I've never wanted cats as a pet. And I've never really been one of those people who, like, goes out of his way to collect cat things. You know what I mean? So when I saw that this was about cats, I was like, I don't know if that's going to be my thing. Here's the interesting thing. Shane Davis also created Dex Starr, my favorite Red Lantern, because yes, he's a cat, but also his origin story broke my heart. It still makes me cry when I still think about it to this day. No, I don't care what you think about me because of that. Anyway, so like that was one of the things that brought me onto this. And then also, I happen to be dating someone now who loves cats. He begs me all the time to get us a cat. And the answer is always no. You may be thinking, that's kind of cruel. They're cats. They're not that hard to put up with. Here's the thing, he's allergic. He wants a cat so bad and he's allergic to them. So that's why I'm like, no, you can't have one. I know they make some that are that like help, that they're like hypoallergenic or whatever, but those cats cost money. So he can wait. Anyway, let's get into what we actually have here. And that is, like I said, we're talking about Starlight Cats. And basically, it's just going to be kind of like, I don't even know how to describe it. So I'm not going to try to. Let's just kind of get into the story itself so you can kind of see what it is we're dealing with. So we start out with this little girl who, as you can see her, she is on the cover down here. So we're starting out with her where she's just kind of walking down, and then she ends up encountering like some local bullies who end up telling her like, I thought we told you we didn't around here. Like, I thought I told you not to come walking around here, squirt. So she's like trying to apologize, like, okay, fine, I'm sorry, I'll turn around, I'll go the other way. But of course the girl just like throws her down. She's like, this is our park and everything, and then they like all walk off, being very mean girls about it. But this is where she first encounters the cat who's going to be very influential to her, this little tabby named Barnaby. So she first encounters him here, and then she starts talking to him, saying, like, hello, kitty. So funny. And then she's like, who are you? So she says, your tag says your name is Barnaby, and what a pretty jewel you have on it. It reminds me of my grandma's necklace. Are you alone? Do you want to come home with me? And this is that first clue when she says it reminds her of like her grandma's necklace. That should be a clue right there, obviously. So anyway, she says, I need a friend. I bet you need one too. So she walks with the cat, and she kind of like goes on to give us like the description here where basically, they just kind of became very close friends very fast. And she's saying like, from then on I had a best friend. Barnaby always walked me home from school. We took the long way home, but that was okay. He always wanted to hear how my day was. My grandma used to say a day without friends is a day wasted. Every day counted with Barnaby. So that's where we see like basically it just kind of carried on for that for a little while. And then we can see in this panel up here where you can see there's this like alien mouse that's going through her stuff and is getting the like actual necklace that was from her grandmother. So she wakes up and sees it, and then the mouse like starts running away. And the funny thing was when she like sees him, she's like, that's my grandma's necklace. And the mouse is like, oh squeak. So he like takes off running, and then he ends up turning into his more like monstrous form, as you can see down here, to kind of like scare her. So when she's like yelling, that's when Barnaby hears her, and he's like, whoa, what's going on? So he shows up and kind of like manifests his powers, and that's where we can see him kind of like revealing to her for the first time that he actually has something special about him. He's not just a very attentive cat. So of course when he shows up, like the rat creature, the Verkin, as we're going to find out they're called, ends up finding out that well, now this girl has the jewel, and then she also has a protector too. So he's like, meddling furball, I will rip the jewel from your chest and everything. So at first it seems like they're going to fight, but then all of a sudden her powers also start to manifest from the gem that she has from her grandmother's like necklace or whatever. So of course that gets their attention and everything. And the Virkin is like, okay, you know what? I can't fight two of them at the same time. I'm gonna take off and go report this to my superiors. So Barnaby comes up and is saying like, oh Rebecca, what have you gotten yourself into or whatever. So this is where we go back over to the Virkin homeworld, and they're finding out about what's going on with this whole gem business, and then we get introduced to Catamus Prime. I love this design so much. Like this just looks so cool. It's like a combination of like I don't even know, like Darth Vader, Boba Fett, and like a Cylon. Like just all of the things together, and I love it. It looks so cool. Anyway, so Catamus Prime is saying, it seems our mission to retrieve the last jewel has failed. Ready the fleet, we invade the cats immediately. So they're saying, we attack now before the last jewel bearer realizes its full potential. This Catamus Prime commands. So, or demands. So we're seeing this next part where all of a sudden now Barnaby's trying to kind of like explain a little bit of what's going on to Rebecca, like with this whole like power manifesting. And in doing so has also like summoned the rest of his team. So we kind of get introduced to them here. We have Lamore, Salty, and Jellybean. So we get introduced to Princess Lamore, and she says, don't listen to them, Rebecca. We will help you." And then Salty, the cat treat superstar, says, "Of course you do." And then Jellybean is like, "Maybe we can get that jewel off you, and it will go to another kitten like me." So they just kind of like do that whole thing, and then all of a sudden, Barnaby's like, "Let's get her to Dr. Clawford. He is an expert on the Starlight Jewels. He will know how to fix this." Cats form a portal, so they do that. They form a portal, and then they go to their actual like city capital on their homeworld or whatever. So they take Rebecca to that, and of course she's kind of like just amazed by what she's seeing. And then they tell her, "Okay, you need to keep a low profile because I mean, you're a human, and a human having this Starlight gem is a little bit odd. So we need you to kind of like blend in." She's like, "Oh, don't worry, my hoodie has like cat ears on it or whatever." So she puts that on, and then they take her to what is it, Cat City Research Facility 8. And Lamore is like, "I think we're in the clear." And then Rebecca asks where they are. So Barnaby says, "This is a lab where all our top scientists work." And Salty's like, "Oh boy, I can't wait to see Doc's face when he sees this." So they walk in, and this is where they see Dr. Clausen, who's one of those like hairless cats or whatever, which I guess kind of makes sense for like a scientist cat. I don't know why, but that fits. Anyway, so he's saying, "I can smell the cat treats on your breath from here, old friend. This better be important. I'm in the middle of some very delicate calculations on locating the last jewel." So of course that's where they tell him like, "Okay, you don't need to worry about that anymore. We found the last jewel." So Rebecca goes up and shows it, and Dr. Clausen's like, "Oh my god, like a human has the gem and everything." So this is where they kind of fill her in on the history of like the gems and everything. And so they're talking about like, we can only guess at the wisdom behind the great Singa's final resting place. A pupil of mine, Barnaby's brother, theorized that he chose to land on Earth to get as far away as possible from the Virkin god Malix after their deadly battle. Clearly, he must have chosen Earth for reasons beyond even my comprehension. And so when she sees it, she's like, "Oh, I recognize that. That's the Merlion. It's the national symbol of Singapore or whatever." And they're like, "Okay, well, we don't know what that is, but over here we call them Singa. He is our great warrior god." Yeah, he is our warrior god. And then Jellybean says, like, "Merlion? That sounds funny or whatever." So they're like, "Whatever Earth type name you have for Singa is not important." Dr. Clausen says, "When reports came in years ago that the jewels were on Earth, we managed to locate all but one. The prophecy spoke of the jewels going to 5 chosen cats. Clearly, there has been a mistake." So she's like asking, like, "Wait a minute, what do you mean a mistake? Clawford, do you think you can get the jewel off her?" they ask. And he says, "Well, you did come to the expert on jewels, didn't you? I cannot simply pry it off her, of course. I will need time, scans, tests." So he's like saying, like, "Okay, until we do all of that, though, we're going to go ahead and place her under arrest to kind of like keep her like locked up, basically, until we can figure out what's going on and how to get it off of her." So of course she freaks out and just like blows a hole in the wall or whatever and flies away. So she has the like cops kind of like pursuing her and shit. They're coming after her and she's like, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not a bad guy and everything. She's trying to get away from them. So finally Barnaby shows up and is like, look, I understand that you're scared and everything, but you have to understand they're more scared of you because of the power that you're holding right now and because we don't really know how that's going to work with the fact that you're a human. So anyway, she's like, she finally surrenders, allows them to like take her to the king and everything. So she shows up, and the king is telling her like about everything like he's heard everything that's going on. She tries to start like pleading her case at first, but he's like, "No, I don't want to hear it." And he just kind of like goes on to tell her what's going to happen. He says, "You will stay here under 24 hours supervision until we take back what is rightfully ours." So she like basically says yes, and then Princess Lamore says, "Father, please, you can't just keep her away from her family." So they basically tell her like, "Yeah, don't interfere and everything." And then all of a sudden they get like this call from the military cat, the one with the cigar and everything, and basically gets told like, well, the Verkin have also shown up, and it looks like they've shown up like with all of their numbers. So we are ready to defend, but I don't think we'll actually be able to do anything. So the king is like, okay, you know what? We need to send the Starlight Cats out, and since this little girl has one of the gems or whatever, well, we're going to go ahead and let her go too and see if she's going to be of any help. But they basically tell her, like, look, you're still under our control. You are still subject to, our command or whatever. So consider yourself one of us and go out there and fight for us. So, of course, they do go out there and they start, getting ready to fight. And this is where we see also there's this like breakdown in the Verkin. So like these big monstrous ones, those are the actual Verkin, and then these are the measles. They're kind of like servant mice. As you can see, they don't look as monstrous or as gross or anything. So that's kind of why they're kind of like the servant class. They're kind of like subservient because they don't really have any way to defend themselves against the more monstrous rat Verkin. So hopefully at some point in the future, because I saw somewhere in like the backup, is it in here? No, it's in the other one, the making of Starlight Cats or whatever, where it talks about like maybe at some point in the future they'll actually rise up and find their own autonomy, which I hope does happen. So anyway, we get this very nice like shot, just this splash page of them like actually in battle here with the Verkin and everything. And of course, they have this whole struggle where like Rebecca doesn't really know what to do. She's kind of like frozen up. She's in shock and everything. So they're like, that's fine. We can handle this by ourselves. We're going to figure it out. And then we go back inside to Cadmus Prime, who has basically decided he's going to go and deal with this himself. So he gets into this like mech suit and everything, and then just like blasts out, completely destroys his own ship and kills everybody on board. Doesn't even care. Is just like, you know what? I'm here to kill these cats, so I'm going to do that. So we see where Cadmus Prime like enters the battlefield and everything and starts fighting. All of this was just great. Like the action scenes in here, the art, everything was just completely incredible. So I liked all of this. But anyway, we see that where they're like I said, basically fighting with Cadmus Prime and the like robot or whatever. And then we see where Barnaby finally seemingly gets like taken down and starts getting crushed. So of course that is enough to actually like really like piss off, especially when he like does this whole thing where he like fires flame directly into his face. So of course once all of that is done and it seems like Barnaby's possibly dead, that of course pisses off Rebecca because she has this very close bond to him. So she finally is like freaking out, and then it's kind of like this Captain Planet type of thing where it's like all of the other Starcats like give her part of their power or something like that. So they kind of like all combine, and through her they're able to create Singa, the Merlion or whatever. So that's what comes out. It fights back against Cadmus Prime and kind of like freaks everybody else out too. All of the Verkin, they're like decided to take evasive action while the Merlion is just tearing through all of them. So during this whole time, we see Rebecca's thoughts where she's like, they hurt Barnaby. They hurt Bart. And then like she's finally waking up after like the battle is over where they kind of like manage to resuscitate her. And of course, her first question is, well, where's Barnaby? And no one really wants to answer it first. So they're like, all right, we'll take you to go see him. So they take her to Dr. Clausen's like lab or whatever, where we see that Barnaby is basically caught in this like crystal. And Dr. Clausen is telling her, like, yes, it seems like right now the crystal is the only thing keeping Barnaby alive, but at the same time, we're not able to break through it to, like, try and help him in any kind of way. So we don't know what's going to happen just yet. Like, he's being kept alive by the crystal, but we don't know how long is that actually going to last. So, of course, she's kind of like blaming herself, saying it's all her fault. And then she asks, when will he get better? To which Dr. Clausen is like, we don't know. We can only hope it will be soon. Or maybe that's Princess Lamore talking. She says, we will let you know when he is well again. But for now, you must let him rest, child. So all of a sudden, she finally finds herself back at home, but she does still have like the gem or whatever. So there's that going on. And then Cadmus Prime goes back to his master to go and report on the fact that, oh, Singa is back, just so you know. So we get this very nice shot of seeing the monster like in its full form. And just the fact that the mouth is able to open that far. Like if you can see the teeth start here and then they just kind of like go all the way back to like right here somewhere. So I mean the fact that the mouth can open that far, that's just terrifying. Anyway, so we go from there back over to Rebecca, who is again dealing with the bullies from last time, except instead of like last time where she just like got bullied, this time she kind of like fights back and stands up for herself. And she's kind of like telling them like, you're not going to push me around. She says, Jenny, if you want to fight, I will give you a fight. Which of course they just take off running. And then she says, that's silly. I'm not going to hit them. But I won't be bullied either. After all, Barnaby would want me to stand up for myself. Barnaby said I was the chosen, and I have to believe him. I have to believe in myself because Barnaby believed in me. I can't wait till we're together again. And that's where we kind of like leave off for right now. So we'll see what ends up happening from that. I'm really interested to see because like I said, I wasn't like actually planning to pick up this book until for one thing, like I heard more about it and then I actually went and looked at the campaign just because like when you say something is dealing with cats, I'm not particularly all that interested, but when I actually saw the art, read a little bit about the story, I was like, you know what, this is a book that I need to pick it up, and I'm so glad that I did because it's really good, and that's why I'm saying I can't wait for the next issue to come out because if this is the type of thing I can expect to see from independent creators, I'm all for it. I'm perfectly willing to drop the mainstays, as I've been calling them, the mainstays of DC and Marvel when we're getting like material that's this great from the independents. You know what I mean? The only thing that I can hope for is that at some point these become more regular. Because trying to like wait a year in between like graphic novels is just so grating. I could reread the story so many times, but at the same time, it's like I'm going to want that new material. So you know what I mean? But we'll see what ends up happening. I'm really glad that I got this. I ended up loving the story even more than I thought I would. I could already tell I was going to love the art, so that was no surprise to me, but it's still at the same time like just some of the art that I saw in there I could have never even anticipated. And then also knowing that this is coming from the creator of like or like one of the co-creators of one of my favorite like Red Lanterns of all time, like Dex Starr. Like that's basically what I felt like I was reading, which is what I've wanted for a long time. Ever since I first saw Dex Starr, I was like, can I get a comic like this? Can I just get a story just like this with this character, but like just a whole story about it? And that's what we're finally getting here. So I'm so happy to see it. But I think that's about as much as I could say for this particular comic. So I don't know if anybody out there had the chance to back this and has gotten it and read it. If you have, then definitely let me know what you think down in the comments below because I would love to get some feedback on this. But if that's going to do it for me here. So like I said, go ahead and let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, then definitely like it. Make sure you are subscribed. And if you are done here, then go and read a book. If not, I will see you on my next video.